Yeah, good morning everybody. Now I'm beginning with my live stream today and at this morning. I hope you're doing well. You're looking on my last trade for this day, or for this week better to say. And here I'm on a demand and supply trade. And I opened this trade 2 days ago on Wednesday. You can see here was the moment I opened here this buy trade. It's at the moment 85 pips in profit, and I am aiming for a little bit more. You can see it here. I set a trail start on 1000 ticks, which is 100 pips. So my goal is that this moves 100 pips. It's at the moment at a very critical situation. I don't know if you really see the 100 pips, because if you look here, there are a lot of resistance in front of this trade. We have firstly here this blue moving average, where at the moment the price, the candle begins here to bounce. Then we have here the red line. This is a sell order block, and we have here the red trend line. It's a daily trend line. It came over this red daily trend line, but it's very likely that it maybe wants to retest here this trend line again. Maybe even it did it here first time. You can see it here. We had a retest of the trend line. It bounced with a pin bar here, which is basically a good sign. But we have a really big resistance here with the supply zones. These are supply zones printed from the MetaGrid supply and demand indicator. Firstly, we have here this yellow box, which is a H4 supply zone, a massive H4 supply zone. It's really big, as you can see. And in this supply zones, we have more supply zones. You can see we have a white box, it's a H1 supply zone. We have a green box, it's a M15 supply zone, and a little bit higher again a white supply zone. So a lot of supply in this yellow box. So I don't know if price will come easily through here. We will watch this a little bit the next minutes, but at the moment it begins to go a little bit down because of all this resistance in front of us. Let's watch a little bit what the price does here. Maybe it gives also a chance to step into this trade if we see a pullback again here. And then if you see price action in the buy direction, maybe you can go today for a little buy trade until this area here. But for this, you need a little bit more pullback here of this trade, and then maybe it could reach today here these zones here. I think here, if you look on the left side, the structure of the market, in my opinion, a lot of traders in the sell direction should have placed their stop losses around here or even here, and normally the market catch them all. So the stop loss hunters should try to come in these areas here to stop these traders out. And this is my hope today, that the stop loss hunters try to come here into this area here, and then I would see here my 100 pip trade. But as I told you some minutes ago, the resistance is really big here at the moment. I don't know if the buyers are strong enough to push the candle into this area. I think for 100 pips it has to move around here to this next supply zone here in this area here. If you have any question, you can of course use the YouTube chat box. And you see this was a really nice demand, supply and demand trade. the reason I entered this buy trade on Wednesday was that we had here a H1 demand zone painted from the MetaGrid supply and demand indicator. This means here on the H1 time frame we had a lot of demand, so a lot of buyers, potential buyers on this zone, and this zone was painted hours before the price came even to this zone. If you look here, this is the white box. This strong up move here created this demand zone, or better to say, the indicator created then this zone for you and made here this white box, because the indicator calculated that a lot of volume and a lot of buyers stepped here into the market in this pair. And it's very likely, if then price comes back to such a strong demand zone, that the candle again bounces and goes higher. And you can see this white box was there on your chart since August 5th. You can see here was the box created, and then 5 days later this demand zone paid out. Price came back into this white zone and began here to bounce, and I waited a little bit for the price action. You can see we had a massive red candle here with a spike at the end, which is good because it began here with this candle already to bounce here on this demand zone. So if you had placed here a buy order, you had here already the first winner. If you look back, it bounced here almost 40 pips on this demand zone. I then waited for more price action, and you can see we have here two strong green candles here created after this massive sell candle. It's a really good sign that we get quickly strong candles in the buy direction. I waited for a little pullback, and then I entered here the buy trade on Wednesday, and then we had again a pullback in this demand zone. The demand zone was tested again. I stayed here in this trade. The stop loss was below this white box around this green line here, and then you have to wait if the stop loss will take you out of this trade, or if your trading decision will hold. So in this case it hold, and the price was then going again higher here. It bounced on this yellow line too. It's a H4 trend line automatically painted from MetaGrid, and you can see on yesterday we had also here this blue buy arrow, which stands here for a buy trade on the M30 time frame. So in case you would step in here around, then you have also a really good trade so far. But at the moment it looks not like it wants to make the 100 pips so quickly. I expect here, as I told you, a resistance, and maybe the buyers are not strong enough today on Friday. We know on Friday very often the yen pairs get stronger. Before the weekend, it's a safe haven very often for the traders that they put their money into the yen pairs or into the yen. And my hope is still that buyers and stop loss hunters will push the price here for 100 pips in this area. But I think we will not see it maybe the next 30 minutes or so. On my last live broadcast, we saw that the price or my trade reached the target, but I think today it's a little bit more difficult here. But still, it's over 80 pips. It's very good for this trade, and you can see with this supply and demand trading, you get really nice trades with a lot of pips. You can use the supply and demand zones. For example, if you really put here a buy order and you wait what happens, especially on such zones which are very small zones. Let's see how big this box is. From here to here we have 14 pips, so it's a 14 pip zone. This means if you place here at the beginning of the zone a buy order and a little bit deeper, maybe for 20 pips as stop loss, then you get with a 20 pips stop loss, in this case so far 80 pips move so far, which is a 1-to-4 ratio. Of course, not every supply and demand zone will give you such a big move, but very often we see this on trending pairs that you get such a nice move. If we look back here, you can see this yellow box here, the H4 zone we are sitting at the moment, also gave a lot of good trades. The candles came back here to this yellow box, and you see almost on the pip it gave here the reaction and dropped down for 100 and almost 170 pips. Then again it tested here this yellow box, another reaction here, and then this yellow box got a little bit weaker. The price came into this yellow box here, and then it bounced here on this white supply zone, sorry, and then we saw here this drop, and now the buyers once again come through this yellow supply zone. So every time the candles came back into such a supply or demand zone, normally it gets weaker. And so this is almost I think it's the third attempt now to come to the end of this big yellow supply zone. Let's check it again, how many times it was tested. Okay, this was the first test of the yellow box, and then it gave a much bigger drop here. This is the first time it was tested. You can almost say it's the second time, but let's say this is the second time it was tested and worked. For us as traders, it was the third time here, and now we have attempt number 4 that the buyers tries to come through this supply zone here in this case. And my hope is that they today have enough power to come through this yellow zone, at least to the next double supply zone, because we have here the H1 supply box, and into this H1 supply box we have the little M15 supply box, so 2 supply zones on the same area, and above we have here the massive sell order block. This blue box from MetaGrid shows us that here's a massive sell order block, and then above this sell order block we have again a supply zone from the H1 time frame, so there is much more resistance to come. At the moment you see this is a undecision candle. It goes a little bit higher, a little bit lower. Sellers and buyers are almost in balance at the moment, and the question is which group will win here, the sellers or the buyers. And this will show us if the trade will go for the 100 pips or not. But with the trailer I'm here on the perfect side. If the candle goes for 100 pips, if it reaches the 100 pips, the trailer will automatically start from MetaGrid and will trade 5.5 pips behind the actual price. So this is all in ticks here, so 1000 ticks means it's 100 pips, and 55 ticks is 5.5 pips in this case. So here you say when the trailer should start, and here you say the distance from the candle to the trailer. So it will trail 5.5 pips behind the price. I don't see any question at the moment. I think we can watch this trade a little bit more. Then we will see, and I will show you then later. I don't think we will see the 100 pips during this live broadcast, in my opinion. And like I told you, if we see a bigger pullback here, maybe to this red line again or to this trend line again, and then you see maybe on the M15 time frame again strong green candles, it should give you the chance to step into a buy trade today for, let's see, if the price comes back and retests here this daily trend line, and then you see green candles, you have the chance for around 30 pips, maybe 40 pips today, but we have to see price action. In case that now it begins to go again here below the red daily trend line, and it retests here, then the red trend line, it begins to go deeper, then I would close my trade here. Then it's done for this week, because then I don't see any chance that it will go for the 100 pips. But I think it wants now to retest again here this daily trend line, and the moving average is here a resistance. So maybe we see it in the US session. It's possible. But around this time, I think the Asia session ends too. And if the Asia sessions ends, in my opinion, a lot of traders will use the yen as a safe haven. So the yen gets stronger at the moment. And so the pair goes a little bit down. But still, the Canadian currency is strong so far. We are on the M30 time frame, by the way. And I can give you a little update to the new scanner I'm working on for the method Alanders showed us in our CADJPY Telegram group. I'm working the next days on this new scanner. My goal is that the scanner gives you only an alert if on the M15 time frame and on the H time frame all rules are fulfilled, so that you don't have to check the M15 time frame and the H1 time frame for this new method Alanders showed us. So if the scanner is finished and ready, then you will get only a signal if the M15 and the H1 time frame is in alignment and all rules are fulfilled. Let's see, I can open my demo MT4. Then we can look at this. This is my demo MT4 here. Let's see if I find here. In this case, you can see we are here on the pound CADJPY. And what we are looking for this new method from Alanders is that we want to have here a blue arrow which shows the low and high peaks basically. And we want to see this arrow at the end or above this channel like it is here. You can see we got here this blue arrow, and the arrow is at the end here of this channel, of this lower channel line, and from here on the price began to bounce. This is the first rule we want to have for this new method. So we need a blue arrow, and after the blue arrow it has to bounce here on the channel, in this case for a buy trade. And if we have such a situation, then we switch to the M15 time frame, and then we want now a buy signal from the yellow boxes on this lower time frame. And a buy signal would be if we get here such a yellow box here below the price. What we now need is a yellow box below the price, and if we have this yellow box below the price, then we would step into a buy trade for 10-20 pips, or we wait until the price comes to the other side of this channel. So in this case, the first rule is fulfilled. We have the blue arrow, we have the bounce of this lower channel line, and we need now the yellow box below the price that we get here a buy trade. And the scanner which I'm working on would give you an alert as soon as here the yellow box is painted on your chart, and if this on the H1 is like it is here, so we have the arrow and the bounce on this channel, and as soon as you get then the yellow box, the scanner will send you an alert that on both charts, on the H1 and M15, all rules are fulfilled. This is the goal for the new scanner I'm working on, and I think it should be I can finish it over a weekend. It's already 50% of this scanner is already finished, and the other 50% I want to do today and tomorrow. And I hope then we can get the signals a lot easier, because if you always have to check 2 time frames and all the pairs, it's easier if you have a scanner which shows you the signals, and then you go to the chart and you double check if the signal is okay, and then you can step into a trade. So let's look back to our live trade here. Still a really big indecision here in the market. Buyers and sellers don't know what they want to do, or buyers and sellers are at the moment in balance. So we have almost the same numbers of buyers and sellers, and this is the reason why the price at the moment goes sideways here. But during the trading day, I'm very sure one of the both direction will get stronger, the sellers or the buyers. And what we need is maybe more power from the US session, and if the Canadian traders are awake, they are sleeping at the moment at this time. It takes some more hours until Canadian and US traders begin to trade, and then maybe the stop loss hunters will try to come here into these areas, which will be good for my, or would be good for my trade if I want to have the 100 pips here. But at the moment the sellers are a little bit stronger, and I think we will see here maybe the retest of this zone. Again, if you have any questions to MetaGrid, the trading manager and software, or the supply and demand indicator, you can use the YouTube chat box. Then I can answer maybe your questions. I will make maybe 10-15 minutes more that we can see what here happens, but I don't think that we see 100 pips during this live broadcast. Still I can live with 70 or 80 pips here for this trade. It's also okay. Nothing to worry here. It's very unlikely that we see again here such a big drop in the next 2 or 3 hours. So I'm safe here. Of course, I could now secure my trade with MetaGrid. If I click here on this green button, I get here a stop loss line, and I let's say we want to secure the trade for at least here 10 euros. I put it here, so in case that we get a very quick drop of the pair, I have 10 euros at least here. So in this case the trade is secured. Of course you should do this, because it would really bad if we get a drop like here, and then out of this 2-day trade we have suddenly 0 profit. This should not happen, and it's always good to secure such a trade here. And with MetaGrid this trade will only be closed if the candle really touches here the stop loss line, not a spread. If we get a bigger spread or so, MetaGrid would not close this trade. The candle has to touch this white stop loss line. Only then MetaGrid will close here this trade. So it's a kind of spread protection too. And of course all this, the targets and the stop loss is not transmitted to your broker. It's are hidden targets and stop losses. So it's only here on your chart, but your broker does not know where you want to close this trade, or where's your target, or where your trailer starts. If you use the internal function from MT4, you can, as you know, use MT4 to set stop loss or the target. Then this information is transmitted to your broker, and many brokers do sell this information to let's say to other firms, and so the stop loss hunters know where a lot of stop loss and targets are sitting in the market, because many brokers sell this information from the hard-coded MT4 stop loss and profit targets. And it's better if you use a system like MetaGrid, where, which helps that your broker does not know where you want to go in or out of the market. And it's much easier to use here these lines. You are much quicker to set a target, to set a stop loss, or the trailer here. Now it begins to retest here the daily trend line, like I told you, and then it gets really interesting if the sellers are that strong that we come into again this area here, or if it will bounce here on the daily trend line. If it bounces again here on the daily trend line, this would be a good sign in my opinion that we can reach higher zones today. If this trend line now holds not, and it goes a lot deeper here into this area here, then I think maybe I will close even the trade during the next 1 or 2 hours. But like I told you, if you see after this pullback again strong candles, maybe on the M30 here or M15 time frame, let's say 2 strong green candles, then it would be a good idea for you to open a buy trade and try also to come here into this area here for 30 or 40 pips today. But do this only if you see really price action. The opposite way is if we come here into this zone and you see here a retest then of this daily trend line, and then you see strong red candles, then of course you can also go into a sell trade, also for 30-40 pips here. Maybe it wants then again a test here, maybe this demand zone, or again here this demand zone. If the seller gets stronger, I think they will try here to knock these demand zones out here, this one and this one. But still there is a lot of support there. We have here a lot of resistance, but we have here a lot of support too. There's a strong buy order block here, again a strong buy order block, and then we have 2 demand zones. So the sellers need also a lot of pressure if they want to come here through it until here again. It's a really interesting pair today to watch what happens and which side will win here. Of course, I hope for the buyers in my case. I think I will give you an update on the MetaGrid Trade Manager chat then later today when I closed the trade, because it's very slow at the moment. I don't think we see here the final target during this live broadcast, and as I don't see any questions so far, I think you're good. And what I wanted to show you is again today that demand in supply trading or supply and demand trading makes really fun if you have the faith to wait for the long trades, for the big trades. And you see it was at the beginning of the live broadcast over 80 pips. We are now a little bit below the 80 pips here, but it's a really good trade if you wait 1-2 days that such a trade can develop. Don't close it too early, and don't go out of the trade only because it retests again such a demand zone. The worst what can happen is that it reaches your stop loss here. Like I told you, a 20 pip stop loss is enough here on this demand zone. So the worst what can happen is that you lose 20 pips, but the best thing what can happen here is that you get here maybe 80, or what I want to have, 100 pips on such a trade. If we see here the 100 pips with a 20 pip stop loss, it's even a ratio from 1 to 5. This means you can now have then 5 losers in a row, and you are still not losing money. And this is really important. And the supply and demand method is, in my opinion, one of the best methods to get such big ratios on your trading, even higher ratios. I saw sometimes we have a ratio from 1 to 8, 1 to 10 even, if you have the faith to wait that long on a trending pair. So I like supply and demand trading a lot, but wait for price action. It's better. Of course, you can go blindly in on the supply and demand zones if you have such a small one, or if you look here on this M15 demand zone, for example, how big it is, the zone. It's 8 pips. So let's say you place here a 10 pips stop loss below, then the worst thing what can happen is you lose 10 pips. But if you bounces maybe for 20 pips, you have already a 1 to 2 winner. And watch the chart for such small zones, because very often these small zones will hold and give you a bounce and a nice winner with a higher ratio, win ratio. You have here a really tiny box, you can see. Even you can try for this, but it's really tiny. I think it's maybe 2 or 3 pips. But let's say you place it above the white box for 5 pips maybe, then you lose 5 pips if the price comes through. And this is, by the way, here very likely, because we have here another high here. And if we see stop loss hunters, they will not stop here on this white box. They will go for this area or even this area. So if you want to trade today this supply zone, you should place your stop loss higher. Maybe even here, we wait even here for this next supply zone. In my opinion, if we see stop loss hunting, they will not stop here, in my opinion, on the other end of this white supply zone here, if we see them. At the moment it bounces a little bit again on the daily trend line, which is a good sign for the buy traders. But we have a lot of more hours to go today, so we will see which side will win. This was my live session for this morning. It's morning here in my time. In America or Canadian, of course, there is not a morning. They sleep here at the moment. But in Europe, it's almost 2 hours. We have noon here. And yeah, so I wish you a nice weekend already. Next week, I will for sure make some live sessions too, if I am in a trade. And on my Telegram channel, which is linked in the YouTube box below, you will see how this trade ends. I will make a screenshot when I close this trade, and then you will know how many pips this trade gave to me, and if it maybe reaches the 100 pips. Have a nice day. Until the next time. Goodbye.